In the previous video, we met Sang-ji, a clever middle school student who often zones out in class and doodles instead of paying attention. When her teacher catches her and calls for a parent-teacher meeting, Sang-ji cleverly convinces her brother's friend, Do-won, to pretend to be her brother. Despite his initial reluctance, Do-won agrees, leading to a humorous and touching encounter that marks the beginning of Sang-ji's growing fondness for Do-won. Back in the present, after experiencing bullying and betrayal from her best friend, Sang-ji encounters her brother, Sang-yen, and his friends outside her school. They are ready to confront the bullies and act tough. Nervous, Sang-ji tries to slip away, but Do-won steps in to reassure her. Together, they proceed to the spot where the bullying occurred. At the scene, Sang-yen retrieves the stolen money and items from the bullies, warns them about their actions, and demands they stop the bullying immediately. When the bullies argue back, Sang-yen, along with Do-won and Jumbo, intimidates them until they relent. Sang-ji waits anxiously outside as Sang-yen and his friends handle the situation. When they return with her purse, Sang-ji smiles with relief. The skinny boy who was left outside asks about the events inside, and Sang-yen tries to maintain his tough facade, claiming he can scare anyone with his presence. Everyone laughs, knowing he's exaggerating. After some playful teasing, they head home. The next day, Sang-ji reports Lee Jin-ru to the teachers for leading her to the bullies, resulting in Lee Jin-ru's expulsion. Lee Jin-ru pleads with her eyes for forgiveness, but Sang-ji chooses to ignore her. Sang-ji later discovers a note from Lee Jin-ru begging for another chance but decides it's too late. During her exams, Sang-ji performs well in most subjects but struggles with physics. Given her parents' strict academic standards, her father hires a tutor, opting for Sang-yen to save money. Sang-ji finds it challenging to have her older brother as her tutor. Sang-yen, with the patience of a feral cat, grows increasingly frustrated as Sang-ji struggles with physics concepts. Their tutoring sessions become filled with tension and arguments, eventually leading Sang-yen to declare that he no longer wants to tutor her because she's stupid. That evening, their parents insist they resolve their differences or Sang-ji will have to find a new tutor the next day. Reluctantly, they comply. The following morning, Sang-ji is surprised to find Do-won in the kitchen, learning that he will be her new tutor. She feels like she's struck gold without even buying a lottery ticket. Excited but unable to get much alone time with Do-won, Sang-ji finds Sang-yen constantly around, engrossed in his games. She tries to block his view of the screen and even attempts to take candid photos of Do-won. Noticing her efforts, Do-won playfully poses for her shots. Sang-ji, caught red-handed, pretends to be absent-mindedly holding her phone. Sang-yen questions why she's not taking photos of him, noting he's also handsome. Sang-ji cheekily compares him to a freshly dug potato, which annoys Sang-yen but amuses Do-won, who holds Sang-yen back from chasing Sang-ji. Their playful banter continues, with Sang-ji teasing Sang-yen from the first floor, making him laugh. Later, in her room, Sang-ji reviews the photos of Do-won and develops a crush on him, even copying his victory pose from one of the pictures. Do-won soon enters her room to begin tutoring. The next day, Do-won learns that Sang-ji isn't particularly interested in physics. To make the subject more engaging, he suggests a trip to the museum to showcase the fun side of science. Sang-yen, upon hearing the plan, agrees to join them. On the day of the museum visit, Sang-yen suddenly decides he'd rather play games at the arcade, leaving Sang-ji with the opportunity to spend time alone with Do-won. At the museum, Do-won explains the exhibits in detail, captivating Sang-ji not only with the displays but also with his enthusiasm and charm. The visit sparks her interest in physics, largely due to Do-won's engaging explanations and passion for the subject. During their exploration, Sang-ji asks Do-won about his dreams and ambitions. Do-won reveals he wants to become a successful game developer and create an exceptional game. Curious about his personal life, Sang-ji inquires about his girlfriend. Do-won laughs and tells her he's single because he's too focused on his career to date. He reassures her that when he starts dating, she'll be the first to know. Sang-ji didn't get the response she was hoping for and is disappointed that Do-won doesn't view her as a potential girlfriend. Still, she agrees to his offer to introduce her to his girlfriend and jokingly says she'll evaluate whether he made a good choice. During a break, Sang-ji begins sketching in her notebook. She draws a picture of their pinky promise but quickly hides the notebook when Do-won comes back. As they head out, they find Sang-yen waiting at the museum gate. Do-won receives an urgent call related to his job and starts working there, while Sang-ji and her brother go home. Later that evening, Sang-ji realizes she has misplaced her sketchbook. She remembers she left it at the museum when she left with Do-won. She calls the museum, and the staff tells her they handed it over to Do-won. Sang-ji panics, worried that Do-won might see her sketches, which include not only the pinky promise drawing but also other images revealing her feelings for him. She tries to calm down and comes up with a cover story to hide her true emotions. The next day, Sang-yen comes to Sang-ji's room with her sketchbook, which Do-won sent with him. Sang-ji is puzzled as to why Do-won didn't bring it himself, especially since he's also her tutor. She grows anxious, fearing what might happen if Do-won saw the sketches. In the dorm, Sang-yen appears unhappy and irritable. When Do-won inquires if something is wrong, Sang-yen expresses his frustration with Sang-ji's behavior. He explains that earlier that day, Sang-ji told the family she was dating someone on Tinder, which upset everyone. Sang-yen is furious with Sang-ji, and Do-won is taken aback by his reaction. He believes Sang-ji is too young for dating apps but reassures Sang-yen that she might be acting out due to her age. Do-won promises to talk to Sang-ji to help her settle down. Meanwhile, Sang-yen remains enraged, especially about her Tinder date, whom he suspects is misleading her. He wants to find out more about the person to take action. Meanwhile, Sang-ji is feeling anxious and concerned. She made up the story about online dating to convince Do-won that she doesn't have a crush on him. Now, she is dealing with the fallout of her lie, as her family is reprimanding her. When Sang-yen and Do-won come into her room, Sang-yen's face clearly shows his anger. Sang-ji avoids looking at him and doesn't answer his questions. In frustration, Sang-yen storms out of the room, telling Do-won to try to talk some sense into her. Do-won then asks Sang-ji for the name of her online boyfriend and what year he is in. Thinking that Do-won believes her lie, Sang-ji decides to take a gamble by describing someone who resembles Do-won without actually revealing that she's talking about him. She says her boyfriend is in college and about to graduate. Do-won is taken aback and points out the age difference. Sang-ji mentions that her boyfriend is 5 years older than she is. Although Do-won doesn't catch on that she's describing him, he warns her about the risks of such an age gap and advises that it's not the right time for her to be dating, especially with someone she met online. He suggests she focus on her studies and aim for a good college before thinking about relationships. Sang-ji agrees, but reluctantly. Later, Do-won goes back to his dorm, plays games on his RGB keyboard, and eats some instant noodles. Suddenly, he receives a call from the hospital treating his father. The hospital informs him that his father's condition has worsened, prompting Do-won to rush to the hospital. A few days later, Sang-ji starts worrying because Do-won hasn't come to tutor her all week. She asks her brother about it, and he tells her that Do-won went back to his hometown due to an urgent family matter. Sang-ji is disappointed to hear this and calls Do-won as soon as she gets to her room. She checks on him, and Do-won assures her that he is fine and there's nothing to worry about. Delighted, she asks when he will return, and Do-won tells her that he will be back in time for his graduation ceremony. Sang-ji feels relieved and looks at the gift she has prepared for him. Do-won also feels comforted by their chat. After they hang up, someone knocks on Do-won's door. When he opens it, a girl appears and disrupts his relaxed mood. The girl greets him warmly and asks if she can come in, but Do-won firmly refuses, insisting that they talk at the door. His displeasure is clear. The girl, feeling uneasy, changes the subject to Do-won's graduation, asking if he will be moving back to their city permanently. Do-won confirms that he will. Excitedly, she asks if she can attend his graduation ceremony, but Do-won declines. She then tries to offer him some money, thinking he might need it, but Do-won turns it down, leaving the girl feeling awkward and guilty. Several weeks later, the graduation ceremony finally arrives. Sang-yen, Sang-ji, and their father attend, along with Do-won and his friends. Sang-ji's dad congratulates Do-won, while Sang-ji hides behind her father, sneaking glances at Do-won as she usually does. Do-won notices Sang-ji's shy looks and smiles warmly at her. As the crowd begins to move, Sang-ji presents Do-won with a bouquet of flowers. Do-won is taken aback and asks if they are indeed meant for him. Sang-ji confirms, explaining that she wanted to give them to him because he is her teacher. Just as she is about to hand him another, more meaningful gift, Do-won's friends call him over to take a group photo with their favorite professor. Sang-ji takes the photos and overhears her brother's friends talking about how they will all go their separate ways after college ends. Feeling concerned, Sang-ji approaches Do-won and asks if he will forget about her once he leaves. Do-won reassures her that he won't forget and promises to visit whenever he is in town. To capture the memory, he suggests they take some pictures together. Later that night, Sang-yen's friends hosted a party. Sang-yen gets carried away with drinking, and despite Do-won's efforts to calm him, Sang-yen continues to drink heavily until he passes out. Do-won helps him get home, lays him down on the couch, and is soon met by Sang-yen's parents, who arrive after hearing the commotion. Sang-yen's mother asks Do-won to stay the night since it's already late. Do-won is reluctant but agrees after she insists. Sang-ji shows Do-won to her brother's room, provides him with a change of clothes, and makes sure he's comfortable before leaving. Later, she notices him sitting outside alone and decides to join him. She asks him why he's sitting there, and he looks at her with a trace of sadness. Sang-ji smiles at him, which lifts his mood and makes him smile back. She asks what's bothering him, and Do-won opens up about being weighed down by a lot of debt. Sang-ji promises that once she finishes college and gets a job, she will earn enough money to help him pay off the debt. Do-won laughs and tells her not to worry, advising her to save her money for herself. But Sang-ji insists that she wants to help him. Afterward, she goes back to her room feeling troubled, and just as she is about to fall asleep, she hears the gate creaking open. Peering out the window, she sees Do-won leaving. He waves goodbye, and she waves back, feeling a twinge of sadness. Back in her room, Sang-ji sits with a heavy heart as she reads a message from Do-won. He explains that he has an early flight back home and must leave without saying a proper goodbye. He urges her to take care of herself, focus on her studies, and promises to send her gifts if she does well in her exams. Sang-ji tells him not to forget his promises. While she is actually thinking about his promise to introduce his girlfriend, Do-won mistakenly assumes she's focused on the gifts. As time goes by, Sang-ji researches different universities and their admission criteria, showing particular interest in one located in Do-won's hometown despite its high cutoff. Determined to meet the requirements, she commits to studying hard. She eventually achieves excellent scores on her exams and shares the results with Duan. True to his word, he sends her the promised gifts. Although they are physically apart, Sangji feels content and accomplished. One day, Sangji overhears her brother, Sang Yen, talking on the phone with a friend who mentions that Duan now has a girlfriend. Feeling betrayed, Sangji asks Sang Yen if this is true. He responds that his friend heard it from someone else, so it isn't confirmed. Sangji feels deeply upset, believing that Duan has broken his promise by not introducing or even mentioning his new girlfriend. Overcome with emotions, she impulsively decides to take the next flight to Duan's hometown. At the airport, she receives a call from her brother, who demands to know where she is. Sangji tells him she's in another city, which shocks Sang Yen. When he asks for an explanation, Sangji lies and claims she's there to meet the boyfriend she supposedly met on Tinder. This enrages Sang Yen even more. He instructs her to stay put while he arranges for Duan to pick her up and warns her not to meet the online boyfriend. He also informs their parents, who are equally shocked and disbelieving of Sangji's reckless behavior. They urge her to avoid the boy. Sangji sits quietly at the airport, and soon enough, Duan arrives with a girl by his side. Assuming that the girl is Duan's new girlfriend, Sangji feels heartbroken. When Duan reaches her, he sternly asks what she is doing there and scolds her for the dangerous actions that have worried her parents. He reminds her of her promise to concentrate on her studies until she finishes high school. Sangji wants to remind him of the promise he made to her but chooses not to bring it up. Duan's tone softens as he inquires about her online boyfriend. Sangji, feeling disheartened, explains that they broke up because he thought she was too young and called her a kid, saying he wouldn't date her anymore. She starts to cry, and Duan comments that perhaps the boy's decision wasn't entirely wrong. He tries to console her, suggesting that maybe her ex might wait until she's older. Sangji wipes her tears and insists that won't happen because he already has a new girlfriend. Unaware that Sangji is actually talking about him, Duan advises her to stay optimistic and assures her that she will eventually find someone better. He asks his companion for tissues to help Sangji and then invites her to join them for lunch. Sangji declines, saying she just wants to go home. Duan understands but suggests she freshen up before heading out. On her way to the washroom, Sangji breaks down, realizing that her future with Duan now seems unattainable. When Sangji returns, she finds that Duan has already purchased her return flight tickets. She offers to pay him back, but he refuses to accept the money. Sangji then gives him the graduation gift she had planned for him. Although Duan appreciates it, he doesn't realize that Sangji is beginning to emotionally distance herself. While Duan steps away to take a work call, Sangji discreetly slips the money for the tickets into his wallet, not wanting to owe him anything. Upon returning, she also hands back the teddy bear he gave her. When Duan questions her reasoning, Sangji casually states that she just wanted to return it. With a heavy heart, she walks away to board her flight, leaving Duan confused about her true feelings. Sangji arrives back in her city, where Sang Yan is waiting to pick her up. Though he's upset with her, Sangji bursts into tears when she sees him. She hugs her brother tightly, and Sang Yan, thinking she has suffered a major heartbreak, attempts to comfort her as her tears continue to fall. Once they get home, Sangji is somewhat calmer, but her parents are eager to talk to her about her actions. Sang Yan, however, indicates that it's not the right time for that conversation. Sangji retreats to her room and begins sorting through all the gifts she received from Duan. She places them in a separate box, intending to lock away her memories of him and move on from her feelings. Time passes, and Sangji graduates high school with excellent grades, securing a place at her desired college, which happens to be in Duan City. Despite her diminished interest in him, Sangji makes new friends at college, including Ning Wei, a vlogger, Uxin, a skater girl, and Wang Rulin, a typical nerd with glasses. One day, while Wang is carrying books, a boy accidentally bumps into her, causing her to drop everything. He doesn't offer any help, so Wang has to pick them up by herself. Just then, an athlete named Jiang comes over to assist her and walks her over to her friends. He introduces himself, and Ning, who is very outgoing, immediately hits it off with him. She invites him to her birthday party and encourages him to bring along some of his handsome friends. A few days later, Ning's birthday party takes place, and all of Sangji's friends attend. Jiang and his friends arrive shortly after, and one of Jiang's friends quickly shows interest in Ning. The group decides to go to a karaoke bar, and as they pass by, Sangji and Duan are separated by the crowd, unable to see each other. Coincidentally, Duan is also at the karaoke party with his own friends. The girl Sangji once thought was his girlfriend turns out to be just a friend trying to set Duan up with someone else. Sangji enjoys herself at the party, and Jiang clearly shows an interest in her. They chat for a while, and Sangji eventually steps outside for some fresh air. By mistake, she grabs her friend's jacket instead of her own. As she walks down the stairs, a cigarette box falls out of the jacket. While picking it up, she hears a familiar voice and looks up to find Duan sitting on the stairs in front of her. Sangji is stunned by the unexpected encounter, and Duan seems equally surprised. They both stand there, staring at each other in bewilderment. And that's a wrap for this episode. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below. If you enjoyed watching, make sure to smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be the first to catch the next part of Sang-ji's story. We've got a lot more excitement and drama coming your way, so stay tuned.